What's up, guys? Ben here bringing you another video today. In the last couple of days, we've had a couple of teams sort of full rosters leaked, and we're just kind of waiting for those teams to announce. So I'm going to do a series of videos and talk about those rosters, talk about their needs coming into the offseason. Did they address them? What are my expectations for the new teams? We're going to start with the rumored New York roster and talk a little bit about that today. So let's dive in. All right, so my boy Jacob Hale over at Deserto yesterday, and I'm recording this on Tuesday, so this is on Monday, Labor Day, tweeted out in the afternoon that New York Subliners 2023 CDL roster is set to be Hydra, Kismet, Skies, and Priesta. He also said that they're still finishing up the contracts, but the team is locked. And obviously, knowing New York, it's probably going to take them their sweet time to announce this thing. They're going to shoot videos. They're going to do the whole rollout package you expect from the New York social, marketing, and creative teams. I think my first thoughts is I actually don't mind this roster. They obviously did not get their first choice of some of the top free agents like Cammy and Afro, but I think they've made some good strides towards some of their weaknesses from last season. Let's talk a little bit about that. So if we take a look at New York's overall game records last season, obviously they had a really tough start in Hardpoint. They really turned that around at the end of the season. I think the 31-27 record isn't indicative of how good they were at Hardpoint at the end of the season. But what really I think let them down, especially towards the end of the season, was their lack of success in S&D. And when their S&D was on, they were actually a very good team. We see in stage 4, like the one major event where they were really good in S&D outside of Tuscan S&D. They ended up getting the grand finals at that event. Champs, they were okay at S&D too, but again, I think this kind of bore a weakness against some of the other strong teams at the top of the table, and an area I think New York needs to improve. And I think a lot of their S&D weakness is in a couple of areas. This is sort of overall stats over the course of the season. And as you see, New York not great in a couple different categories. They were second to last in offensive win percentage in S&D the entire season. And again, also sort of in the middle of the pack in first blood percentage. They were near the bottom in plant win percentage, which to me speaks towards when you got those situations where bomb is down, we're just making the wrong decisions as a team. People are getting blooded, and we're not able to execute those post-plant situations. And look, if we look at the 4v3 win percentage, they were near the bottom of the league. They were 9th. And 3v4, they were dead last in situations. So I think you really saw it, especially on offense. If you can't win your situationals, can't win your post plants, you're going to really struggle to win some of these maps against better teams. And so I think they've actually done a good job with this new roster, addressing some of their S&D issues. I think Hydra and Kismet, they're both really strong S&D players. I think Priesta can also be that sort of S&D anchor. And I'm very curious between him and Kiz, how they're going to play sort of who's going to be more of the island player and who's going to be a little bit more aggressive following Hydra up in situations, or is that your kind of trio doing stuff across the map in a lot of set pieces? I obviously really like Caesar in S&D. He's always been a solid S&D player, smart guy, knows his strats, knows his timings, really good. Again, when we talk about island players, like he's one of the more solid iron players that's reliable for 3-1ing on the map. We know that Sky's going to try and get one and get out, or if he's under pressure, he's going to stay alive, and that way we can 4v4 retake. So I think that's S&D, and again, I think they've done a good job with this roster addressing S&D. Obviously, we will see if that works out in practice. I think talking about the other game modes too, I actually really like this team for control. Hydra's very good at obviously staying alive, making plays individual. I think Kiz has got that in his blood as well. And we know how reliable the Priesta and Skies can be in this game mode. I think Preston was especially good at this back when he was on FaZe and Modern Warfare, and he's obviously very good on it on 100 Thieves and Black Ops 4. I think the last couple of years on Minnesota, they've been a little bit on control, but I think some of that has to do with the other personnel on the team. And I think Caesar's been pretty good in control as well. But again, he's got a similar problem that Preston had on Minnesota. Like I just think on that Florida team, the role comp didn't really help. Do I think this team is going to be like a top 4, top 5 control team? It's possible. I still think teams like Optic and FaZe and probably Thieves are probably on paper a little bit better. But as we've seen sort of this year, like you don't have to be some 80%, 70% win percentage control team. If you can win about 50 to 60% of your controls, you're executing S&D at a high level and you're around that 45 to 50%, like your win conditions are very good. I think we have to speak on Hardpoint as well with the squad. If we look at sort of the players they've swapped out here, I actually think this team may have gotten better in Hardpoint. I think Caesar is probably a little bit better of a Hardpoint player than Krim is at this point in his career. I think Krim has really struggled at times with consistency in Hardpoint. It's hard to tell between this and last year in Cold War. Like, is that down to just him trying to gap fill a bit more in his teams and set up his players? Or is he really struggling with holding that individual power positions? I trust Caesar in AR battles. He's very good with some of the best up there. So I think in terms of from that role, that's probably an upgrade. You know, at times, this team really struggled to find an aggressive sub player to really pair with Hydra. They're probably like most success as a team was when they had Hydra and Asim. And then last year, they really at the end came along with Hydra and Kiz. I'm really curious to see with Priesta and Kiz, like what roles they're going to run. We obviously don't know if this is going to be a 3 sub or a 3 AR type hardpoint game, but you've got flexibility with both those players. I think Preston could play legit any role from aggressive entry to being main AR. And I think Kiz is definitely a capable flex and is probably going to be either second sub or flex on this team team, depending on, again, on the meta, and it might even be a per hill thing or per situation. And I also like this team's ability to play around the hill. You know, with guys like Hydra, that he's going to want to push out cuts, and that's fine, because I think the other 3 players in the team are really good at making plays around the hill, soaking up the time. Caesar was really getting a decent amount of hill time when he was playing on that Florida team, averaging about over a minute per 10. I think Preston numbers are a little bit low, but again, Minnesota was not a good hardpoint team last year, and I watched so many maps where this guy was 1v3 in hell because his team was off doing some irrelevant stuff. And we saw what Kids was doing at hardpoint the end of last season. I think pairing him with Preston and Hydra, they're going to be a dangerous trio trying to retake and break hills. I expect this team to be very good at that. Hold percentage might be interesting with this team, but that's okay. I think they can get away early, maybe being a little bit more of a break heavy team. But the other thing I like about this team too, again, going back to the Kids and Preset thing, is if it's a 3AR map and these players are sitting back on holds, I really like their ability to do so. Preston and Kids are really good at playing their life. He's really good at holding power positions. They can play a little bit of somewhere in between that New York style, that Florida style, where they can be a hyper aggressive team, but if the game ends up being a little bit more AR heavy, they can play that early rotate and hold style, and the Hydra go off and make plays. So I really like overall these changes from New York. My final thoughts are, look, like, they weren't able to get Afro, they weren't able to get Cammy. Obviously Minnesota kind of built the team that had a little bit more free agent power, but I think the most important thing for New York this season, amongst the winning thing and all the other stuff, is they need to reset the team culture on this squad. As we have talked again time and time again in these videos, and obviously y'all probably watched an episode of The Flank where we had the New York players come on. Their whole camp has been in shambles last year. It was really difficult to play well with all the outside the game stuff going on, with the lack of chemistry between the players. So I think this year culture is really important. I think Caesar is a very button-down type of guy. I've obviously managed Preston. He's a no-nonsense guy. He's a work ethic guy, first on, last out. And I think Kids has really changed his attitude from, honestly, a really bad stint on Paris, but I think that whole team was shocked to begin with. I think then the big key to this is Hydra. You're now playing with a team that I think is much better from a championship approach. Hydra's a young guy and it needs to start developing this out-of-game stuff. I think the expectation on the New York side is they've obviously are going to give him a big contract, and we'll wait on the details on that. But if he can follow these guys along and develop that teammate mentality, this team's going to be very dangerous. I could see the ceiling of this team being really an event winner, and I think their floor is probably higher actually than some may expect. The one thing that might be sort of funky with this team is between them, Minnesota, we haven't done a video yet on Toronto, kind of where those 3 teams fall in terms of skill, and I think LAG as well sort of in similar boat. I feel like all 4 of those teams can really crack in the top tier, but I think the New York team may have sort of a higher floor just based on, I think, the discipline on this team, and I think their ability to come in a little bit under the radar compared to where people are rating some of the other squads. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you like this New York team? Where do you think they rank in the rumored squads? Reply in the comments, and I may respond to a few of y'all, and we'll check in on that. As always, guys, if you like the content, smash that like button, subscribe. We're going to keep pumping out more content for you in the coming days. I'm really excited for the season to be starting soon. We got Call of Duty next coming up next week. So excited to break down news about the next game with a reaction video next week. And as always, guys, we'll see you in the next one.